code red situation. You need to write an essay. You're sitting in front of your computer, but you don't have any ideas. You don't know what to write. What are you going to do? If you have writer's block, you can go take a walk, clear your head, let some ideas generate. Or if you have writer's block, you don't have any ideas, and you've watched the first 2 videos, what are you going to do? You're going to write it badly. And how are you going to do that? You're going to use your first impulse. So whatever ideas come into your head first, you're going to accept them, and you're going to use them, and you're going to try them out. And by try them out, you're going to actually write them down, actually put them in front of you, actually use them. You're not going to worry if they're good or bad, or if they're funny or if they're not. You're just going to put them down and use them. You don't have any ideas, you're going to write it badly, and you're going to use your first impulse. In the first 2 videos, we learned that the first impulse is like a muscle that can be developed. So with practice and practice, the first ideas that pop into your head are actually going to start to get better and better and better. And how can you practice it? How can you develop that skill of using your first impulse? Well, you can use the first 3 exercises that I gave you, and you can also come up with your own. Maybe you have your own ideas of how to get that first idea generation going. The key things that I hope you can take from these 3 videos is that the first ideas that pop into your head aren't necessarily bad or something that you need to be afraid of. They're very useful, and they're something that we can embrace and we can use to help us create and overall help us to become more creative in general. And you'll be shocked at how magically doors just begin to open once you start to get your ideas out. Once you start to get your first impulses out, you'll learn about what you're thinking, but you'll also have something in front of you, and you'll suddenly understand what you need to do in order to create this project properly. You'll start to understand stuff that you didn't even know before you started. Well, it's getting late. If you've watched these 3 videos, you can see how the sun's been going down and how the lighting on the videos actually changed as I've been filming these things. But one last thing that I wanted to leave you with, since it's a funny thing. Well, I haven't gotten around yet to mentioning comedians. See, I love comedy. I think that comedians can be absolutely brilliant. But it's really interesting. If you want a good example of how the first impulse works, watch comedians. Watch how sometimes things just fly out of their mouth. We were talking about improv. You watch Whose Line Is It Anyway? Oftentimes you'll see them using their first impulse. And I mean, improvisation, it's all made up on the spot. And how can you tell that they're using their first impulse? I think you can tell by watching those videos and noticing that the ideas they have come so spontaneously and so instantaneously. They don't have any time to think about them. And the funniest things often are things that just pop into your head, and it pops into your head and it's funny for that reason. It's because it was instantaneous. It was just like that. So I wanted to mention that because I think comedians are brilliant, and I really admire what comedy writers and what comedians do. But I think comedians have a really good handle on how to use the first impulse. And, you know, they also struggle, and they understand how to fail. Whoa, what do I mean by that? They know how to fail. I don't mean that all comedians are failures. Some of them are failures, some of them are really funny. But what happens in comedy and with improv, and which should happen in all your creative work, is you should realize the importance of failure. And more importantly, allowing yourself to fail. And that's what I mean by failure when I talk about failure. So when we're using our first impulse, you can see how this is tying in. When we're using our first impulse ideas might not be so good. They might be failures, but they might be necessary to get to the next step, or they might be useful to see in front of us, to analyze, and to see how we can evolve on that. How we can use these new ideas. There's a book out, The Comic Toolbox. It's a great book. It's by John Voorhouse. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. He says he uses, I think he calls it the 9 out of 10 rule. The 9 out of 10 rule means for every 10 ideas he has, one of them is going to be funny, which means 9 of them are not. So he starts off writing and starts doing his comedy by expecting 9 of his ideas to fail. And in that sense, it takes the pressure off. You can do 10 ideas without any pressure, just first impulse, and expect them to fail, and you'll do fine. And chances are, at least one of those ideas is going to be good. So next time you have writer's block, if you need to take a walk, go ahead, take a walk, clear your head. But if you want to stay at the computer, stay at the page, keep doing what you're doing, I'd really recommend that you try writing it badly. Write it horribly, take the pressure off, and use your first impulse in order to do so. And by doing that, you're going to create drafts that may be bad, but they may be very useful and may help you along overall with your creative project and with your overall creative health. So I hope this video has been helpful. Please don't forget to visit my website. It's www.wildimaginations.ca. I will be back, and I really hope to see you then. So until then, have fun creating.